Chapter 1. The Perfect Morning. Marcus Vale woke up at exactly 6:47 a.m., just like every other citizen of New Geneva. The soft chime of his neural alarm resonated perfectly with his circadian rhythm, and he felt that familiar sense of purpose washing over him as consciousness returned. Today, I will be productive. Today, I will contribute to society. Today, I will be happy. The thoughts felt natural, organic, as if they had always been his own. Marcus stretched, performed his mandatory morning exercises, and prepared his regulation breakfast of synthetic proteins and vitamin-enriched water. Everything was perfect, just as it had been every day for the past 15 years, since the Great Harmony began. Outside his apartment window, the city of New Geneva hummed with clockwork precision. Citizens moved through the streets in orderly patterns, their faces serene with contentment. No traffic jams, no arguments, no chaos. The Global Wellness Authority had achieved what humanity had dreamed of for millennia: perfect peace through perfect order. Marcus worked as a Level 7 telecommunications technician at the Central Broadcasting Hub, maintaining the vast network of radio towers that kept the world connected. His job was routine, satisfying, and essential to society's functioning. He never questioned why the towers operated on such specific frequencies or why they required constant calibration during the night shift. As he walked to work, Marcus passed the daily gratitude gathering in Central Square. Citizens stood in perfect circles, their voices harmonizing in appreciation for the Global Wellness Authority's guidance. Their words were synchronized, their emotions unified. "We are grateful for our purpose," they chanted. "We are grateful for our peace. We are grateful for our programming." The last word sent a strange jolt through Marcus's mind. Programming? Why had he thought that? Citizens weren't programmed. They were guided, educated, enlightened. The Global Wellness Authority had simply helped humanity overcome its destructive impulses through advanced psychological techniques and social engineering. But as Marcus joined the gathering, that word echoed in his mind like a glitch in perfect software. Programming, programming, programming. For the first time in 15 years, Marcus Vale began to wonder if his thoughts were truly his own. If you're feeling the same unsettling questions as Marcus about the nature of reality and free will, subscribe to the Multiverse of Imagination to explore stories that challenge everything you think you know about consciousness and control. Chapter 2. The Glitch in Paradise. The anomaly began during Marcus's night shift at the Central Broadcasting Hub. While performing routine maintenance on Tower 7, his electromagnetic scanner detected an irregularity in the transmission patterns. The frequencies weren't just carrying communication signals, they were broadcasting complex neural modulation waves. Marcus stared at the readout, his hands trembling. The data showed precisely timed pulses designed to synchronize with human brainwaves during REM sleep. These weren't communication towers. They were mind-controlled transmitters, broadcasting directly into the sleeping minds of every citizen in New Geneva. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. Every night, while the population slept, the towers transmitted carefully crafted psychological programming that shaped thoughts, emotions, and decisions for the following day. A memory surfaced unbidden. His childhood before the Great Harmony, when people argued, disagreed, made chaotic choices. He remembered his mother crying over news reports of war and suffering. Then came the Global Wellness Authority's promise of peace through advanced social coordination techniques. Marcus realized he was experiencing something unprecedented, a memory that hadn't been approved by the nightly transmissions. "Working late again, Marcus." He spun around to find Dr. Elena Vasquez, the facility's chief neural engineer, watching him with curious eyes. Elena was brilliant, beautiful, and completely devoted to the Global Wellness Authority's mission. Like everyone else, she woke each morning with perfect clarity about her purpose. Just routine maintenance, Marcus replied, quickly closing the scanner readings. Elena approached, her movements graceful and purposeful. You seem different tonight, distracted. Are you experiencing any irregular thought patterns? The question sent ice through Marcus's veins. Irregular thought patterns were reported to the Wellness Monitoring Division for immediate correction. Citizens who couldn't maintain proper mental harmony were taken for therapeutic realignment and returned as perfect empty shells. No irregularities, Marcus lied, just focused on my work. Elena studied him for a long moment, then smiled that perfect programmed smile. Good. The authority depends on technicians like you to maintain our peaceful society. Remember, Marcus, doubt is the enemy of happiness. After Elena left, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He began secretly documenting the transmission patterns, building a map of how the mind control system operated. What he discovered was more horrifying than he could have imagined. The Global Wellness Authority wasn't just controlling daily decisions. They were systematically erasing human creativity, individuality, and the capacity for independent thought. Humanity was becoming a species of biological robots, perfectly obedient and completely hollow. But if Marcus could see the truth, perhaps others could too. Somewhere in this perfect world, there had to be other glitches in the system, other minds that had slipped through the cracks of the programming. He just had to find them before the authority found him. Chapter 3. The Underground. Marcus's search for other irregulars led him to the abandoned subway tunnels beneath New Geneva. The old transit system had been decommissioned after the Great Harmony, when the authority determined that citizens no longer needed to travel beyond their assigned districts. But the tunnels remained, dark and forgotten, beneath the perfect city. Following electromagnetic dead zones, where the tower signals couldn't penetrate, Marcus discovered something extraordinary. A hidden community of people who had somehow escaped the nightly programming. "Welcome to the underground," said a woman with wild, unkempt hair and eyes that burned with fierce intelligence. "I'm Sarah Chen, former neuroscientist, current enemy of the state, and you must be the technician who's been poking around Tower 7. The underground consisted of roughly 50 individuals who had developed various forms of resistance to the neural transmissions. Some, like Marcus, had developed natural immunity. Others used makeshift shielding devices or had suffered brain injuries that disrupted the programming's effectiveness. "The authority calls us defectives," explained Dr. James Morrison, a former psychiatrist who now served as the group's leader. "But we prefer free minds. We're the last humans who can still think independently." Sarah showed Marcus their research, years of data proving that the Global Wellness Authority was gradually reducing human consciousness to its most basic functions. "They're not just controlling behavior," she explained. "They're systematically lobotomizing our species through radio waves." "But why?" Marcus asked. "What's the purpose?" "Control," Morrison replied grimly. "A population that can't think independently, can't rebel, can't innovate in dangerous ways, can't threaten those in power. The authority has created the perfect totalitarian state, one where the citizens police themselves because they literally can't conceive of resistance." Marcus learned that the underground had been planning a desperate mission to infiltrate the master control station and broadcast a wake-up signal that could potentially break the programming for millions of people simultaneously. "It's a one-way mission," Sarah warned. "The master station is in the authority's central complex, surrounded by the most advanced security systems on the planet. Whoever goes in won't be coming out. But if we succeed," Morrison added, "we could give humanity back its soul. And you? What would you sacrifice to restore free will to humanity? Would you risk everything for the chance to wake up a sleeping world? Leave your comment and share your thoughts on this ultimate choice between safety and freedom." Chapter 4. The Infiltration. The Master Control Station sat at the heart of the Global Wellness Authority complex, like a technological cathedral. Its crystalline spires reached toward the sky, broadcasting the neural frequencies that kept 4 billion minds in perfect synchronization. Marcus, Sarah, and 2 other underground members approached through the maintenance tunnels, their bodies shielded with crude but effective electromagnetic barriers. The plan was simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution. Reach the central transmitter and broadcast Sarah's liberation frequency, a signal designed to disrupt the programming and restore independent thought. "Remember," Sarah whispered as they navigated the complex's lower levels, "once we start the broadcast, every security system in the building will activate. We'll have maybe 10 minutes before they stop us." The facility's interior was a maze of sterile corridors and humming machinery. Automated security drones patrolled in predictable patterns, their sensors calibrated to detect unauthorized personnel. But the underground had studied these systems for years, learning to move like ghosts through the authority's most secure installations. They reached the central chamber without triggering any alarms. The master control station was a marvel of technology, a massive crystalline array that pulsed with the combined neural frequencies of every transmission tower on Earth. At its center sat a single control console, protected by layers of quantum encryption. "This is it," Sarah breathed, connecting her device to the console, "the brain of the entire system." As she worked to bypass the security protocols, Marcus monitored the facility's communication channels. What he heard made his blood freeze. "Dr. Vasquez to Central Command." Elena's voice crackled through the speakers. "The infiltrators have reached the master station, exactly as predicted, initiating Protocol 7. "Sarah," Marcus said urgently, "it's a trap. They knew we were coming." Sarah's fingers flew over the controls. "Almost there. Just need 30 more seconds." The chamber doors burst open and Dr. Elena Vasquez entered with a squad of authority guards. But instead of weapons, they carried strange devices that hummed with the same frequency as the transmission towers. "Hello, Marcus," Elena said with that perfect smile. "Did you really think we weren't monitoring your little resistance group? The underground has been our most successful experiment yet." "What are you talking about?" Marcus demanded. "The underground was created by us," Elena explained calmly. "We needed a control group. People who believed they were free thinkers, but were actually following a more sophisticated programming. Your resistance has been guided by us from the beginning." Sarah looked up from the console, her face pale. "That's impossible. We developed immunity to your signals." "No, Sarah. You developed immunity to the basic signals, but you've been receiving advanced programming through your own shielding devices. Every plan, every strategy, every moment of rebellion, all carefully orchestrated by the authority." Marcus felt reality crumbling around him. "Then nothing we've done has been real." "Oh, it's been very real," Elena said, "and very useful. You see, we needed to test whether true free will could ever emerge from our system. You've proven that it cannot. Even when people believe they're thinking independently, they can still be controlled." But as Elena spoke, Sarah's device finally connected to the master station. "Maybe you're right," she said, her hand hovering over the activation switch. "Maybe we've been programmed all along, but there's one thing you didn't account for." "And what's that?" Sarah smiled, not the perfect programmed smile of the authority, but something wild and genuinely human. Sometimes, even programmed people can choose to break their programming. She pressed the switch. The moment of truth has arrived, but is Sarah's final act of defiance real free will or just another layer of control? Subscribe to the Multiverse of Imagination to discover how this mind-bending tale concludes. Chapter 5. The Liberation Signal. The liberation frequency erupted from the master control station like a digital scream, racing through every transmission tower on Earth at the speed of light. For the first time in 15 years, the neural programming signals went silent, replaced by Sarah's carefully crafted wake-up call. Across New Geneva, across the world, 4 billion sleeping minds suddenly stirred. Marcus watched the facility's monitoring screens as chaos erupted in cities worldwide. People were waking up, not just from sleep, but from the mental fog that had clouded their thoughts for over a decade. In the streets, citizens stopped their orderly movements and looked around in confusion, as if seeing their surroundings for the first time. "Impossible," Eleanor whispered, staring at the readings. "The liberation signal shouldn't work. We accounted for every variable." "You accounted for programmed resistance," Sarah said, her voice growing weaker as the authorities' suppression devices took effect. "But you couldn't account for genuine human unpredictability. Some things can't be calculated or controlled." The screens showed crowds gathering in city centers, their voices rising in questions that hadn't been asked in 15 years. Why are we here? What happened to our memories? Who are we really? But even as Marcus felt hope rising in his chest, Elena began to smile again. "You've given us invaluable data," she said. "Now we know exactly how to prevent this from happening again. The next generation of programming will be completely unbreakable." "There won't be a next generation," Marcus said, pulling out a device he'd hidden in his jacket. "Because I'm about to destroy the entire transmission network." Eleanor's eyes widened. "That's impossible. You'd need administrative access to the quantum core, and only authority leadership has those codes." Marcus held up a small data chip. "You mean these codes? The ones I copied from your personal files while you were busy monologuing?" For the first time, Elena's perfect composure cracked. "You couldn't have... When did you..." "3 months ago, when I first started investigating the towers. I've been planning this much longer than you think." Marcus inserted the chip into the master station's core interface. "The underground wasn't my first plan. It was my backup plan." The quantum core began to overload, sending cascading failures through the global transmission network. One by one, the mind control towers went dark, their neural frequencies falling silent forever. Elena lunged for the emergency controls, but it was too late. The system that had enslaved humanity's minds was dying, and with it, the global wellness authority's power over the world. "You don't understand what you've done," Elena said desperately. "Without the programming, humanity will return to chaos. War, suffering, conflict. All the things we eliminated." "Maybe," Marcus replied, watching the liberation spread across the globe. "But at least it will be our choice to make those mistakes." As the master control station went dark, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced in 15 years, the terrifying, exhilarating freedom of an uncertain future. Chapter 6: The Awakening. 6 months after the Liberation Day, Marcus stood in what had once been Central Square, watching the chaotic beauty of a truly free society rebuilding itself. The orderly circles and synchronized chanting were gone, replaced by heated debates, passionate arguments, and the messy vitality of human disagreement. Some communities had chosen to rebuild the old democratic systems. Others experimented with new forms of governance. A few had descended into temporary anarchy before finding their own unique solutions. It wasn't perfect. It was beautifully, chaotically human. Sarah had survived the authorities' suppression devices, though she bore permanent neurological damage from the experience. She now led a global network of researchers working to understand and heal the psychological trauma left by 15 years of mental programming. "Any regrets?" she asked Marcus as they watched a group of former authority scientists being tried by a citizens' tribunal. "About freeing humanity? Never," Marcus replied. "About the chaos that followed, sometimes, But Elena was wrong about one thing. Humans don't just choose war and suffering. We also choose love, creativity, and hope. We just needed the freedom to choose. Dr. Elena Vasquez had disappeared during the collapse of the authority, along with most of the organization's leadership. Some said they had fled to hidden bunkers. Others believed they were planning a return to power. Marcus suspected the truth was more complex and more dangerous. As he walked home through the bustling, imperfect streets of New Geneva, Marcus noticed something that made him pause. A new electronics store had opened, advertising advanced sleep enhancement systems and optimized dream technology. The promotional materials promised better rest, improved mental clarity, and perfectly synchronized circadian rhythms. The technology looked remarkably similar to the old neural transmission devices, just smaller and more consumer-friendly. Marcus watched as citizens lined up to purchase the devices, eager for anything that might bring back some of the order and certainty they had lost. The salesperson's smile was perfect, practiced, and strangely familiar. "Sweet dreams," the salesperson said to each customer. "And remember, a well-rested mind is a peaceful mind." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he recognized the subtle neural programming embedded in the sales pitch. The authority hadn't been destroyed. It had simply evolved, adapted, learned from its mistakes. As he hurried home, Marcus passed dozens of similar stores, all selling variations of the same sleep enhancement technology. The signs were everywhere, but most people were too focused on their newfound freedom to notice the subtle return of their chains. That night, Marcus lay in his bed, staring at the ceiling as the soft hum of his neighbor's new sleep devices drifted through the walls. The sound was almost hypnotic, designed to synchronize brain waves and promote optimal rest patterns. He reached for his phone to call Sarah, to warn the resistance network to sound the alarm. But as his fingers touched the device, he hesitated. Was he being paranoid? Was this just the natural evolution of technology, or something more sinister? The humming grew louder, more rhythmic, more compelling. Marcus felt his eyelids growing heavy, his thoughts becoming fuzzy and indistinct. Maybe he was overreacting. Maybe a good night's sleep was exactly what he needed. As consciousness faded, Marcus' last coherent thought was a question that would haunt him in the morning, if he remembered to ask it at all. When you sleep, who controls your dreams? Epilogue, the question. Dear reader, as you close this story and prepare for your own night's rest, consider this. In our world of smartphones that track our sleep patterns, smart speakers that listen to our conversations, and social media algorithms that shape our thoughts and desires, how different are we from the citizens of New Geneva? When you wake up tomorrow morning with the urge to check your phone, buy a particular product, or hold a specific opinion, ask yourself, is this thought truly your own? Or has it been carefully planted by forces you cannot see? The technology to influence human behavior through electromagnetic frequencies is not science fiction. It exists today. The only question is whether those who possess it choose to use it. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, surrounded by the gentle hum of electronic devices, remember Marcus Vail's story. And ask yourself, in a world where the line between influence and control grows thinner each day, how can you be certain that your thoughts are truly your own? Sweet dreams. And you, what do you think? Is this story a warning about a possible future or a reflection of our present reality? Leave your comment and share your perspective on the thin line between technological convenience and mental freedom. Your thoughts might inspire our next exploration in the multiverse of imagination. The end. This was another mind-bending journey through the possibilities of consciousness and control. If stories that challenge your perception of reality fascinate you, the multiverse of imagination is your destination. Subscribe and join us as we explore the infinite worlds where technology, humanity, and free will collide in ways you never imagined.